What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Welcome to episode 77 of the Be Great podcast. I know I'm not coming into this with as much energy as normal. We're going to get to the week 3 game picks. I got 10 more games, obviously, to pick this weekend. We'll see if I can do as good as I did last weekend, 8-2. We'll see if I can do that. This is obviously outside of sports. And I'm normally, if I'm doing a sports podcast like this, I don't like going outside of that. I think a lot of times people really should just stay in their lane. But I feel as if I have a responsibility as not just as an American and mainly, honestly, just as a human being to talk about just briefly. This isn't going to be the whole episode. This is just going to be briefly about what happened yesterday. Honestly, it's hard to put into words exactly how I feel. Sadness is a part of it. I think anyone with a heart feels at least some sense of sadness, because no matter how you feel about him, whether you hated him, whether you loved him, whether you liked his opinions, whether you disliked his opinions, I think a majority of us should be able to agree that he shouldn't have gone out like that. And that what happened yesterday was vile, was tragic, and was sick. And I had the unfortunate consequence of watching the video, and honestly, watching it just makes it feel more personal. It makes it feel more real. And really, while I did feel sadness and still do, the main emotions I'm feeling are disappointment and anger. I wasn't ever really an avid watcher of Charlie Kirk videos. I obviously knew of him, knew who he was. And honestly, what might be the most surprising thing is seeing the amount of people I didn't know people I did know, like famous people who knew who he was, apparently. And I think after this, you can really see the impact that he had, whether you agree with him or not, whether you agree with his ideals or not, whether you like him or not. But I'm disappointed that this is what we've come to. And I'm angry that this is where we are. Because he was a lot of things. To some people, he was a lot of bad things. To other people, they would probably describe him as a lot of good things. Here's what I do know that he was. He was a father. He was a husband. And most importantly, he was a God-fearing Christian. And those three things are more important than any other adjective, than any other trait. Those three things are what's most important to me. And it's a shame, a real shame, some of the reactions. Again, you don't have to like them to feel sympathy. You don't have to like him to be a decent human being. But that's all I'm going to say on that. I think it's a tragedy. But let's get to the game picks, huh? Week 3, we have some big games. We're starting conference play for some people. We will save Georgia, Tennessee for last. As you know, I am a Georgia fan, and they got a big game this weekend, which I have a take, but we'll see. Colorado, Houston. Big 12 play starting for Colorado. At Houston, not a very good football team in my opinion this year. Colorado, I came away from that Georgia Tech game impressed with Colorado, surprisingly. And for that reason, I'm going to pick Colorado to beat Houston. I think they have the better roster, the better team. And I'm going to pick Colorado over Houston. Clemson, Georgia Tech, this is a big one. A lot of people have some hot takes that they think, Georgia Tech's going to beat Clemson because, Clemson struggled against Troy. But personally, I can't get the Georgia Tech-Colorado game out of my head. Georgia Tech won that game, yet I came away from that game feeling way worse about Georgia Tech than I did coming into it. And yeah, Clemson looked real bad against Troy. But there were quite a few really good teams last week who didn't look good against bad opponents. LSU didn't look good against Louisiana Tech. Penn State did not look good against Florida International, or as I call them, Pitbull University. Georgia didn't look good against Austin Peay. I mean, it just kind of happens sometimes. Now, being down 16-0 at one point, not ideal. Didn't happen to any of the other three, but still. I think in moments like this, I rely on Dabo Swinney to get the job done, and I think that's what's going to happen. I think Clemson wins. They have this. They have the better team. They have the better quarterback. They have the better coach. They have the better defense, and I think that's going to give them the win over Georgia Tech. I'm not a believer in that fancy upset pick this weekend. Wisconsin heading to Tuscaloosa, Alabama to face the Tide. Look, is it tempting to pick Wisconsin? A little. It's a little tempting, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to pick Alabama. I think they get the job done. Wisconsin is just simply not a very good team. Luke Fickell, ever since he's been there, he really seems to be struggling to get the talent to come to that program, and Wisconsin is just so unimpressive to me. Pitt, West Virginia, a fun rivalry game in week 3. Look, West Virginia lost to Ohio last week, which was something. And I think Pitt, while I don't think Pitt is as good as some people think, and Holstein, he's a fine quarterback. I think they're good enough to get the job done here. West Virginia, not very good. Give me Pitt to beat West Virginia. Texas A&M, Notre Dame. This is, in my opinion, the hardest pick of the weekend. Because I feel like these two teams are around the same. Not as far as how they're constructed, as far as how good they are. I'm picking Texas A&M. Do I feel great about the pick? No, because every time we get in one of these spots, Texas A&M finds a way to disappoint. But I was very unimpressed with Notre Dame against Miami. Because to be honest, I'm not that high on Miami. So the fact that Notre Dame lost worries me. And I think Texas A&M is going to come out and try and avenge their loss from last year. And I think Texas A&M gets the dub. I think it's going to be a close game, though. Florida LSU. Man, I had fun laughing at Florida on Tuesday for losing to South Florida. I gotta tell you, LSU needs to be careful because this is one of those typical moments that we see every season in college football where you have a good football team who loses to a team they shouldn't, aka Florida losing to South Florida. Then next week they're facing a very good opponent and everyone thinks, oh, well, they got no shot. Be very careful, LSU. Florida is not a bad team. They can beat you. I'm not going to pick them to beat you. I'm picking LSU, obviously. But you better be careful. This game every year tends to be close. Honestly, I will be very impressed with LSU if they come out and stomp Florida. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think Florida is going to come in pissed off, trying to upset LSU. And we'll see if that happens. Duke versus Tulane. Look, I rode with Duke last week. They burnt me. But you know what? I'm not learning my lesson because I'm riding with Duke again. I believe in Darian Mensah, plain and simple. I think Tulane is a good team. I just don't think they're better than Duke. Give me the Blue Devils to beat the Green Wave. Duke, if you burn me again, I'm not picking you to win another game. Okay? Do not burn me again. Arkansas, Ole Miss. To me, this is similar to the game we just saw last week of Ole Miss at Kentucky. I think Ole Miss gets the dub. They're at home, better coach. I don't think Ole Miss has the better quarterback. I mean, he was very unimpressive against Kentucky. I really like Taylon Green at Arkansas. Honestly, wish they could switch quarterbacks. I think Taylon Green would be elite at Ole Miss. But whatever, I digress. But yeah, Ole Miss is the better team. Sam Pittman needs to be fired soon, please. We can't do this much longer in Fayetteville. So give me Ole Miss. Vanderbilt, South Carolina. Probably the second hardest game to pick. You know how I am with Vanderbilt, America's team, the legend Diego Pavia. But you should also know, coming into the season, how worried I was about Vanderbilt. Because all the offseason, it was talk from Clark Lee, the head coach, and Diego Pavia, the quarterback, about how, we're going to be playing football in January. We can win a national championship here at Vanderbilt. And look, I understand you have those dreams, you have those aspirations. But a game like this really worries me. Because now teams like a South Carolina, like an Alabama, like a Texas, whoever else you play this year in SEC play, they're not going to be treating you this time like little old Vanderbilt. That's not going to be their mindset. Oh, little old Vanderbilt's coming to play us. No. They're going to be seeing you as an actual threat, and they're going to be playing to beat you. And that worries me for Vanderbilt, especially with South Carolina being the home team with a quarterback as good as Lenoris Sellers. And because of that, I'm so sorry, Vanderbilt. I am picking South Carolina to win this football game. I don't feel great about the pick, just like I don't feel great about the Texas A&M pick, but it's what I believe. Now we get to Georgia at Tennessee. Tennessee fans seem very hopeful this year. Honestly, they seem almost confident that they're going to beat Georgia. Look, if you've learned anything from me, you should know at least two things by now. Number one, Drew Aller sucks. Number two, though, is that when the lights are the brightest, when it matters most, Rocky Top will always turn in to Rocky Flop because that's who they are. And that is no different than this weekend. Yeah, cool. You absolutely dominated Syracuse. Hey, by the way, how'd Syracuse look last week? Oh, that's right. They had to go into overtime to beat UConn. And this reminds me so much of, oh man, was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago? I think it was 2 years ago when Tennessee, yeah, it was 2 years, or it was last year. I think it was last year. Tennessee played NC State to start the season, and Tennessee dominated them. And everyone was like, oh, here comes Tennessee. It's their year. And you made the playoffs, in fairness, but you didn't beat Georgia that year. And you could argue last year was Georgia's worst team in a while. And you couldn't win. As a matter of fact, you kind of got dominated. And I think Joey Aguilar, he's playing with a lot of confidence. But you're going to be out both of your starting corners on the defensive side of the ball, which luckily for Tennessee fans, I'm sure they're already loving that at least they have a built-in excuse for when they lose. I think the Georgia offense has not been really showing a lot because they know that we don't have to do all of our really good plays to beat Marshall and Austin Peay. I think this defense has a potential to be elite. And I think Georgia wins this football game handedly. I think this is going to be, if I had to give a score prediction, I think I would go 31-14, 31-10, something like that. That's how confident I am. And look, it could come back to bite me. Maybe this Tennessee team is different. Maybe it is. But I don't think so. Because Rocky Top will always be Rocky Flop when it matters most. This has been your Week 3 game picks. A little bit of a somber mood, obviously. Also, it's 9/11 today, so that doesn't help either. But I hope everyone enjoys their weekend. We got Thursday night football tonight. Packers, Commanders. You got a weekend filled with football this weekend. So hopefully it can distract you from the gruesome reality of the real world. But I hope everyone has a tremendous Thursday, a tremendous weekend. I hope all of your teams win unless you're a Tennessee fan or a Seattle Seahawks fan. And do not forget to go out there and be great.